You guys know how Bubba's always trying to relive his old glory days from high school football?
Bubba had glory days in high school, huh?
Well, here's the thing. He struggles because there's one major problem. He didn't win anything. He says he is not trying to live out his dreams through his son, JJ.
But, I mean, really, come on, we all see what's going on.
So he has to talk to other people, like today's guest, that actually won a state championship in high school. That's right. He's got the legendary point guard of the 2004 state champion Dunkerton Raider basketball team, Brungard, in the studio today.
Gee, mister, you're really cool.
These two go way back to the ball diamond of the early 2000s, when Bubba was getting quite large and Brian had beautiful flowing hair that would make Jesus jealous. Even though Bubba claims they are connected by major shoulder injuries, Brian actually had multiple dislocations and eventually required a couple of surgeries. Bubba just randomly asks people to feel his shoulder pop when he moves it to show off the incredible amount of scar tissue buildup. You know, that's kind of weird, right? I mean, how is that impressive?
It just is, okay?
Okay, that's kind of strange, but guess I better not question the guy, otherwise I'll be out of a job. Anyway, nowadays, Brian splits his time between his family and his students in history class at Dunkerton. And he is one of the good ones, the kind of teacher you want for your kids. The one that teaches them how to think, not what to think.
Bravo, good sir, bravo!
And he takes pride in that, as he should. Well done, Mr. Brungard. Here's your host, Bubba Seaman!
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What is up? Before we even get to anything, I got a good guest. If you're watching on the camera, you can see I've got a good guest in the studio today. But before we get to anything with the podcast today, I got to give a shout out. We're recording this on October 26th, Saturday morning. My guest is an early riser like me. He didn't mind driving all the way from LaPorte, right?
Yep.
Nice long trek. Last night, man, 2 weeks ago, Wapsie rises to the occasion, beats Nashua Plainfield to clinch back-to-back district championships. We get home field advantage for at least a couple games, I think, or at least one game, probably two games. Last night, we beat Lake Mills 50-6. 50-6. Thought it was going to be close, and then our boys, once we stepped on the gas, they just didn't take their foot off of it. And so I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a shout-out. We got a lot of good juniors and seniors, leadership type players, and they're really paving the way for our sophomores to grow and be competitive early. Of course, you guys know I'm biased to the sophomore class, but I love all these guys. So I'm very proud of our sophomores that are starting. Caleb Hogan, quarterback, Briar Bellis, wide receiver, Landon Molds, wide receiver and safety, JJ, of course, my son. And then the ones that are running down on special teams and rotating in at different places, Wally Kaufman, Caden Dana, Lane Shores, Hayden Ryard's got some playing time, Cooper Adair. I think we lost him to a foot injury, but Cooper got a lot of playing time. Man, we got a lot of sophomores that are able to come in and step in and grow early and be competitive. They're not just getting their butts kicked like I did playing early. They have a chance to grow behind these upperclassmen. So shout out to Wapsie Valley football, coaching staff, everything. Just proud to be a part of it. Keep going. I'm behind you. So, okay, now we'll get to the episode. Like I mentioned, you can be watching, whether you're on Spotify, you can actually watch a podcast on Spotify, YouTube, whatever. We are in stunning high definition. I mean, look at my basement. Look at the banner. It's beautiful down here. Got my nice, sports memorabilia thing over there. I'm waiting for somebody to ask me about some of this stuff at some point, like the moose mug. What's the moose mug doing over here?
I was looking at this mug over here.
just a plethora of different stuff. I think I got a UFC action figure that's out in the garage. I need to get that brought in and put in there. So it's good to be back in the studio, man. My listeners, you guys are the best. Let me just get that out of the way. As I look back, as we crossed that 1 year mark a couple months ago, I was just reminded of how many of you guys did more than just listen to the podcast. And there go the dogs. Every single episode. It's not an episode till the dogs bark. But you guys, some of you guys actually answered the call, like my guest today, to come on and share, even if they think they have nothing interesting to share. Or some of you bought shirts, hats, which are always available. We haven't sold out. I'm not trying to make money. You get this stuff at cost. We're not making anything. This is just advertising for us. Just reach out. whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. I'll hook you up with a shirt, a hat. We got different colors. Any size you need, we can make it happen. A lot of you reached out personally this last year and told me or my wife how much you like the podcast and how much you appreciate what we're trying to do. You know, I'm not trying to hit it big. I'm just trying to encourage people, to get people to think about their life, about the important things, and just share and encourage people. That's it. We got a lot of support on our Facebook and Instagram, our social media. I suck at social media. I'm not good at it. I don't have a lot of it of my own. All I have is what the podcast needs. But those numbers keep growing. I honestly, I think it's the giveaway contest. I mean, who doesn't like free stuff? When you say you're going to give something away for free, all of a sudden the traction on your social media starts to come in. So it could be those silly reels that my wife makes me do. That's what people like to see, people embarrass themselves. That one I did for Ryan Peterson's birthday, that was a pretty embarrassing video, but that's what people want to see. Lately, it's been those Wapsie Valley football highlights, and it's so clear to see that the parents watch the highlights on Facebook, and the high schoolers and the young people, they watch it on Instagram. It's like there's this divide based on the generation you're in, for sure. So for our new listeners, I'm glad you found us. I don't know how you got here today. It could be Spotify recommended it. It could be a friend told you. It could be you're a friend of our guest. I'm glad you found us. Stick around, see what we're all about. I promise you'll find something that you can enjoy and appreciate about what you're going to hear today. If you don't like it for some reason, what's wrong with you? This is good stuff. We're going to get to some really good stuff. What's wrong with you? Before we get into it, make sure subscribe, follow, like wherever you're listening or watching. That's right. And you know what I hate about the camera being on my left side?
It's your bad side.
It's not bad. You see the gap?
Well, it's my bad side, too.
Is it? Okay.
I've got facial hair that grows the wrong way on this side.
Hey, at least you get facial hair on your cheeks. I get this is all I get. But yeah, it's my bad side. I got the gap, and that's just like, oh, the camera sees that. But they say you got to do video. Video's the way to go. So yeah, you could be watching on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. If you are, leave us a 5-star rating. Those numbers are going up. That helps us reach more people. Follow our Instagram and our Facebook, and then share with all your friends on your social media. Say something nice, spread the word. Show off your impeccable taste by sporting some of our merch. If you guys want some, just reach out. I'll hook you up. And then if you send me a picture of yourself wearing some of our awesome gear, I'll post that on social media, give you a shout out, all that stuff. Our guest today is leaving today with a signature black What Is Up t-shirt. I can promise you that. Then you can sit back and enjoy the show. Once you've done that stuff, sit back, enjoy the show. And let me tell you, we got a good one today. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. This guy's a busy guy. It took a while to get our schedules lined up. Our guest today is one of those dads who does not have to live through his kids in order to achieve all the things he never did in high school sports. This guy actually rose to the top and won an Iowa high school basketball state championship for Dunkerton back in 2004. What was the drought? When was the other one? When was the first one?
1933.
So from
71-year gap.
Wow. And you met a guy from that team, correct?
Yeah, Dean Holdeman from the 1933 team actually came with us and was with us in the locker room before and after games. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
How old was he?
If you did the math, I think he was a sophomore or a junior, I think, when they went. So he had to be pushing close to 90.
Wow. And that was back when there were no it was
all one class. We were the Hoosiers of Iowa, basically.
Wow.
If you've ever seen the Hoosiers movie. Yeah, we were the first small school to win.
It was real. And you brought back the championship, or were part of that anyway. He was a standout athlete back in those days, yet he seemed to treat every student with respect, because I was hanging around back then with the baseball team and stuff, even though I don't know anything about baseball. I don't know what I was doing there, but he seemed to treat every other student with respect, which is very hard to do at that age when you're kind of the big man on campus in a small school.
Well, I mean, we all make silly, dumb mistakes, and I actually talked about that with my students yesterday, how, sometimes you crack jokes. You don't mean to hurt somebody's feelings, but then they take it the wrong way, and you realize you should have never said it in the first place. So I actually told one of those stories to my classmates, because we're actually talking about cyberbullying.
Okay.
We're talking about social media and how to use it properly.
Okay.
And I said, I made mistakes too. Not social media wise, because we didn't really have that stuff back then, but you always say stuff thinking you're going to just try to be funny. Like people try to get clicks now and likes and follows or whatever. But like we used to do it just by cracking jokes. And sometimes you do it at somebody else's expense. You don't mean to hurt them, but
it hurts them.
And then you feel terrible about it. So I said you just learn from it and you move on.
That's right. There you go. I first met him on the baseball diamonds back in Dunkerton, where he was one heck of a shortstop. And when I first showed up, I want to say he was probably throwing around 80 miles an hour, which is pretty good. He was throwing pretty hard, but then we had some shoulder issues come up, and we'll get into all that stuff. But today he still roams the halls at Dunkerton School, but he's not, the guy wearing the letter jacket looking for the party after the football game. He's a history teacher. And trust me, he's the kind of teacher you want your kids to have. He does it well. We've had conversations about it. But he's not just a teacher. He's been known to do it all. Coaching, mentoring, leading these, historical class trips to Washington, D.C. This is my guy, Brian Brungard. What is up, man?
What is up with you, Bubba? It's good to be here. I've been looking forward to this, although, like you said, it took a little while for it to work out.
It did, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, it's a busy life, and I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah. So you were so popular back in the day. I think my wife's cousin had this like gigantic, almost scary crush on you back in the day. For the people who don't know you, for the people who aren't Dunkerton, obviously I've got a bigger Fairbank following. Tell us a little bit about, what life is like right now, who you are, how old you are, wife, kids, hobbies, stuff like that.
Well, like you mentioned, I graduated from Dunkerton in 2004, so I'm pushing the old ripe age of 38, going on 39.
Wow.
My students always wonder if I'm 50. I get that a lot. I don't know if it's the gray hair on the face.
What?
But then I usually just say, well, the gray hair's from you guys. I'd be a lot more young looking if I didn't have students that caused me to get gray hair sometimes. But no, right. Just joking around with them, but no. But yeah, I grew up in Dunkerton, moved out to a family farm, and I'll go more into that here in a little bit. But family farm outside St. John's Church, Lutheran Church outside of Dunkerton. And then, went to Dunkerton all my school life and went to College. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met my wonderful wife, Tiffany, who's a couple years older. She's a Bosco girl. Boo. But, and then we have two kids, Brayton, who's 3rd grade now, going on 9 here next month, and Cade, who's 5. And, we do live the sports life. Brayton's into just about everything, so it's kind of why our schedules, we're kind of clashing there for a little while, trying to get him to all his stuff all the time. But that's been fun. And we spend a lot of time with those sports activities, but then we try to do some other things with the boys too. If we got a weekend, we'll try to take them to a pumpkin farm. And
there you go.
And things like that. If we ever have some spare time, we'll drive down to Cedar Rapids, take them to a park, do quite a bit of different stuff that we can to just let them have fun. My other hobbies, so I try to do a little bit of woodworking. I'm a terrible, like I didn't know how to build anything, fix anything growing up. I never wanted to do those classes, but like I like to try to create stuff. So I've gotten into that a little bit the last couple of years, but this last year's been real busy, so not as much as I'd like to. But
I see. So we bumped into you guys once. I mean, we've communicated a little bit off and on at different times. I can't remember how we first, there was a big gap in there for years, but then somehow, I don't know if I went to a Dunkerton event or something, I bumped into you there or whatever. So we kind of stayed in touch a little bit, but then we bumped into you guys, the whole family, at a Village Inn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that was, a couple of years ago maybe. And you're like, yeah, my kids are doing the Ninja U thing, or one of my kids. And I was like, isn't that like the Ninja Warrior, like gym for kids?
Yeah.
So your kids are into that, or just one of them, or?
Well, both of them like to go there, but half the time they're just running up the little speed wall hill that they got. And try and get up their little 8-foot ramps and whatnot. That's basically what they do. They don't do a whole lot of that swinging and jumping stuff.
Okay. Is like coaching available, or is it just like
you can have trainers or some of the people that work there, like, get your kid go through classes and stuff like that.
Wow.
We don't do any of that. We just do it for fun, but They're always begging my mom to take them there and the jumpy place.
Wow. Okay, good for them. That's good. Yeah, I watch that stuff on TV, and I go out and try to do like 2 pull-ups, and I'm like, how do these guys? I don't get how you get the strength, the grip strength, the upper back strength, the shoulder. I don't understand.
Yeah, my son's going through fitness tests at Union right now, and they just ran the mile. He's in 3rd grade, and somehow he ran it.
It's kind of early.
Somehow he ran it in 6 minutes and 39 seconds. I was like, dude, you'd kill me.
Wow.
And they're doing pull-up tests. Eventually they do pacers or whatever they're called. And yeah, he's into all that stuff and he's already trying to beat all his marks and things like that.
Good deal. Yeah. Yeah, we put our oldest daughter, Bridget, shout out Bridget, she's going to love this. We put her in gymnastics in 2012. We watched the Olympics that year, and I was hooked. Gymnastics, I loved it, and we crushed everyone in the pool. We were watching swimming, all this stuff. So we put Bridget in gymnastics, and she's little, and she's crushing it. She's doing push-ups, pull-ups. She's progressing. Within that first year, they're like, she's ready for the next level. She's got to come, 3 nights a week. And I'm like, I don't know if we can swing that or whatever. And so when it come time for school to do the presidential physical fitness thing, she beats all the boys in pull-ups, sit-ups, everything. I mean, it was great. And then she still blames us. She's like, what could have been, Dad? What could have been if you weren't so lazy?
3 times a week, that ain't much. Come on.
Oh man, yeah, but that's good stuff. That is there is no better foundation athletically for young people than like gymnastics or ninja stuff. I mean, it's just whatever they want to do, whatever sport, like the gymnastics type base is second to none, I think.
Yeah, just get them active doing something.
Yeah, there you go. Well, let's talk about your childhood a little bit. What was it like growing up on the mean streets of Dunkerton?
So like I said, we moved out to a farm that actually my grandpa lived on as well. So there was 2 houses on the farm west of Dunkerton, about 5 miles by St. John's Church. So we just lived right across from it. But I actually went to church a couple miles further west to Mount Hope Methodist.
Okay.
So we were a church family. We went pretty much every Sunday. I was always outside. Like I had one sister. Yeah. She didn't want to do much of anything athletics-wise, so I was playing by myself a lot. Occasionally, Grandpa would come out and shoot baskets with me, and he's doing the old, like, flip shots that they used to do back in the day, like where he would just kind of spin it backwards and throw it from his midsection. So I always used to love just watching him shoot.
Wow.
He went to Jessup, so, like, one of the things after he passed away is I remember I got one of like a little basketball medallion that he got when he graduated, and tried to sport that around when we were moving around for basketball games and things like that, and got a picture kind of imposed on one of his graduation pictures in basketball too. So those are some of the good memories that I have out there on the farm, and just constantly just out there trying to play by myself. And
wow,
I don't know how I ended up being a decent athlete, much as I had to play by myself and just try to do it by myself and learn by myself. Like Dad would come out every now and then, but I kind of feel what he felt back then, where you get home, you're so tired. It's just like, dude, can I just have a seat before I go out and play catch a little bit? And now I feel those days with my dad when he's just like, I just need a break, son.
Yeah. How about I watch?
So I'd go out and I'd throw a football at a pine tree, like try to be accurate, or go out, and my basketball hoop was on rocks and on the top of a garage, and it wasn't the greatest setting, but I made it work, I guess.
Dude, that is like the Hoosiers beginning. It really is. Wow. Yeah. That's cool. When did you, so I remember like more, I guess, so that must have been later on, like junior high school, you moved kind of right outside of town.
Yeah, so we got hit by the 2000 tornado.
Okay.
May 11th, 2000, the one that hit the church, St. John's Church right across. So we got just totally wiped off the map. Actually, I was at baseball practice that night. I was an 8th grader, and my sister came to pick me up on her permit. And we were leaving. The tornado sirens had gone off, but it was just sunny in Dunkerton at that time, just windy, hot. And for whatever reason, maybe this is when God was speaking to me. I looked over my shoulder for no particular reason. We're leaving the parking lot, and I just see somebody like kind of waving behind us. I don't even know if that car had a rear view mirror, so I don't know if my sister would even been able to see him. But whatever reason, I looked backwards kind of see what everybody else was doing, and one of our assistants at that time was kind of flagging us down, and so we stopped, and he's like, Coach wants us to all go to his house because he's right by the school.
Okay.
While the sirens are going off until that just passes. So the whole baseball team basically went over to Coach Brandis's house, and we kind of hung out there, and that tornado hit just outside of town there, kind of hit the co-op and post office that had moved after the flood the year before. And I've always been into storms. I always wanted to be a storm chaser when I was a kid. Like, I just love tornadoes. So I was upset when they said there was one out there and they wouldn't let us upstairs to go see it. But so we kind of went through that one in Dunkerton, kind of picked up over town. And then my mom, like, this is before we have cell phones. Like, everybody's got cell phones in their hands. So she's just coming to Dunkerton to try to find us. She's coming home from work and goes over and eventually finds us at Coach's house. And we kind of stay there, and she had a cell phone, Dad had a cell phone, so they kind of communicated, and Dad came out and found us. But he had followed it and stopped at the farm to see if we were there. It's a good thing we weren't, because our whole foundation was wiped off. Like, each of our bedrooms were in the pasture across the lane in nice, neat little piles. And there was a big propane tank, LP gas tank, thrown right where we used to go for tornado warnings, and like nothing was in the basement, so we probably would have been sucked out of there.
Wow.
So yeah, I always remember that, looking over my shoulder, like if we hadn't gone home. Like, my grandpa was in his house next door with my uncle, who currently lives there, but their main floor stayed because he had like a cinder block house.
Okay, yeah.
So his was a little bit more structurally sound, but
wow.
But yeah, everything was wiped out, the barn, everything. We actually found our dog 24 hours after the tornado, like, just buried under the barn, and he was totally fine. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the other one broke his leg, and he was running around when we got there, but he was skittish pretty much from then on if there was a drop of rain.
Yeah, of course.
Lost a couple horses. We found tons of different animals the next day, sifting through stuff. But yeah, I didn't have any clothes, so like, we were supposed to play basketball, I think, against Wapsie at a spring league game in Independence on Sunday, and that was like a couple days later. So I remember, like, Coach Little and some of the coaches went out and got me shoes and shorts and t-shirt just so I could play.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But that was pretty crazy. So yeah, then we moved into Waterloo. We had insurance put us up in a hotel for about a month. We kind of went to two different hotels for a month. So I was living in hotels for a month to start the summer, and then we got hooked up with a parsonage on Hammond Avenue for the rest of the summer, and then eventually moved out on Dunkerton Road, about 3 miles west of town, and kind of rented that place out till the end of my freshman year, and then that's where my parents moved over to Douglas Drive, and they've been there ever since. So
yeah, that's kind of what I remember.
It's quite and I was doing driver's ed, all that stuff that summer, so it was kind of chaotic.
Man. Well, yeah, that's kind of like a peak traumatic event early. Like, it seems like, what are you gonna say? Okay, what was high school like? I mean, if that was 2000, so there was another.
2008 was the other one,
okay.
And some of the people that were around our farm got hit twice. My uncle didn't get hit with that one, but yeah, some people just west, like the gymnastics place, the Whitmores. I think they got hit twice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they're at like the top of the hill there, kind of.
Yeah, they were just a mile west of where we were.
Yeah, okay, now it's starting to come back to me.
And I didn't get to see either one, which ticks me off. Like, I actually came back. I was back from college for the 2008 one. I had actually just graduated. So I was at my parents' house, and I remember going outside, and Rich Russell was just like, "It's right here. Everybody get in your house." I was going outside to see if I could see it. And then he's like, it's one of those like Twister moments where it's like, "Get in your house right now." And so I'm just like, oh, dang it. So I grab our little Chihuahua, take him downstairs with my mom and I, and we're listening to like the fence posts get ripped out of the ground in our backyard, because it was about a half mile from us.
Wow.
And it sounded like it was on top of us, but my mom's like, "There's kids screaming out there," and it was just like the nails pulling out of the boards. And
No
so like
kidding.
even like, so I experienced a couple of them,
Well, yeah,
but
'cause it went just
but didn't
north.
get to
It
see
went-
any of
yeah.
them. So I finally got to see my first tornado right after I moved to LaPorte about 11, 12 years ago. There was a tornado that popped up by Trayer and Dysart, and I just was watching the radar, and there was just this perfect little narrow area where I could drive straight west in between the two cells, and maybe I could see it. And I got it on video, so finally got to see one, chased it for a little bit, and I actually became a storm spotter because I just love storms.
You actually became a storm spotter?
Yeah, so but I haven't had many opportunities the last few years, and that's when I signed up to be a storm spotter. Is
Like with who? With the fire
just
department? Or?
no, Blackhawk, like the state, through Des Moines.
Huh.
It's easy. You basically sign up for it. You take a class, and they basically make you one. Like there's nothing you got to test out
Sure,
of or anything
sure.
like that. They just want people to go out there and spot and
So you can notify.
notify
Yeah.
the weather service of what's going on out there. So, but I haven't, either because of kids and stuff that we're doing. Like
Yeah.
I haven't had hardly any chance to like actually spot anything.
Man, who knew? So people are going to see this. They're going to see, episode 34 of Brian Brungard, and they're thinking, oh, this is going to be all basketball or, this and that. No, it turned into the first, what are we at here?
Twister
25 minutes turned into Twister. You never know. You never know when you ask somebody. That's pretty much how it goes, but that's real life. All right. That's cool. That's cool. Not really a family activity. My father-in-law is the same way. I think I was so the 2001, I think I was at their house, and he would not come in the basement. He would not, because it did get black in Dunkerton at one point. Yeah, because this wouldn't have been 08, because we're married now. Yeah, this was 2000. We weren't even married yet. Sarah was still in school, and I was at their house hanging out because I was a bum, and he would not, and then he got in his Ford Taurus and wanted to chase it because he knew it was so close. Some people just have that. They want to see, because you do feel safe until it's on you.
Yeah.
You really do. It can be gray and black and the temperature change and something's up, but until you can see it or whatever, like you still feel kind of safe. You feel like there's no need to go in the basement.
Well,
Nothing.
Patrick, one of my friends that I graduated with from Dunkerton, he was just a couple miles south. And he said, I was just outside playing basketball, watching it go by. And yeah, he came out later and tried to help us pick up. But
Wow. Let's move into like the high school type age, the high school era, I guess. Is that what Taylor Swift would say? I don't know, but whatever.
I'm not a Swiftie. So.
Good. All right. Yeah. I showed up on the scene, or I met you. I want to say you were probably around a sophomore, as I'm guessing. I spent about 3 years or so with the baseball team. Mark Brandis was the head coach for high school and all that. And, so yeah, I know Patrick Reynolds and all those guys. And we had some fun. I was just a volunteer. I wasn't certified or nothing, but we had some fun. It was something for me to do in the summer to volunteer and give back, I guess. And I probably did stuff you would, get in trouble for these days. I remember leading you guys in prayer and talking all kinds. I was just trying to build into young people. That's what I was doing, whether it was at church or on the baseball field. It didn't matter. That's what I did. So I don't think they can get me in trouble for that now. But I remember Patrick, he said something, because, yeah, you say you're closing in on 40. I'm just on the other side of 40. But when you're a sophomore in high school and I'm a couple years out of high school, like it seems like that you're miles apart. And I guess you kind of are at that point, but you're really not. And I remember Patrick was telling me, he was like, I don't know if you'll remember this or vouch for this, but it makes me look good, so I'm going to say it. He said, you guys used to, the old Dunkerton school, I don't know if you guys were in study hall or in the library on the third floor or whatever, and sometimes you guys would be up there for whatever reason. You guys would watch the varsity practice, and Patrick said he was scared to get to high school and play high school football because of just the violence of the. Because football is not. I mean, I watch Wapsie's practices from time to time. I talk to Jim. It's not what it was. They have, limited hours of contact per week for the right reasons. Back then, you were killing each other in practice. You were hitting people as hard as you can just about every day except for Thursday when you're doing kind of a pregame walkthrough. And Patrick was like, I didn't want to get to high school. We'd watch you guys, and I was like, yeah, we were bad. Our 0-9 and 1-8 seasons, we were bad. Man.
Yeah, I remember freshman year, they just basically put us in this big giant circle, and they would say, you're going to tackle so-and-so. Yeah. And you'd be sprinting at each other 20 yards apart and just head-on collision. God. And I remember having to do that with like a senior when I was a freshman, like our big, strong running back, Mike Bushka. It's just like,
oh yeah, he was a freshman.
It's just like holy cow! Like there's no way in the world
that'll make you want to
quit. Well, that's the thing. Like nowadays, people would just quit for that.
Football's not fun when you make them do that. So I helped out with the baseball team, got to know you guys and kind of your group a little bit, and then Mark Brandis set up the first ever Dunkerton alumni baseball game. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, there was, I think I got the picture of it in my garage on my little sports wall of fame. For those of you who have seen it, you know what it is. If you're lucky enough or good enough to make it, it's something to shoot for. But man, I mean, there was, I think Mark Brandis and Joe Smith were the coaches. And then there were guys, as young as like Caleb Shook, who, you were probably junior, senior at that time. Caleb would have been like a freshman, sophomore. And then there were guys like John Rathy, older guys playing, Joe Stafford, and all of us mixed in between. It was a fun little game to do. I wish they would have kind of kept that going, but I remember we did a home run derby that day too. And
not many hit out.
No.
I think Robbie won that one.
Yeah, Robbie Marcourt. And I remember I was catching, and I couldn't hit home runs anyway, but I was catching for everybody, and then so I hit last, and when I stood up to try and hit, like my legs were shot, and I'm like 21 years old or whatever, and I'm like, I can't. I mean, I was barely hitting them out of the infield. I was like, well, that was stupid. Maybe I should have hit first. Maybe I could have got one, to the fence. Maybe, I don't know, but that was fun. Something else we got in common: shoulder injuries. Mine is not near as severe as yours, but I remember that was about the time I rolled up on the scene for your age group. That was already kind of known that you had a shoulder issue and this and that, but you were this stellar basketball player, so you didn't really want to. You still wanted to compete in all the sports, football, baseball, and all that stuff, but you kind of had to be mindful that basketball was probably going to pay off for you college-wise and stuff like that. But so I just thought, hey, I'd share that. He probably doesn't know. I didn't have shoulder surgery. I didn't dislocate it, but you and me were connected with the shoulder injuries. And look, so for you guys watching, my wife walks in. She takes the pictures for the social media. She'll remember this. I was trying to tackle, it wasn't Robert Gallery. It was their running back that year for East Buchanan. And he was so good. This running back was good. I think it was Cody something or another. And they ran a sweep, and I got like one arm on him as he was turning the corner. And so when he turned the corner, just momentum, I kind of went up in the air or whatever. And when I came down, it was right on my shoulder, and it sprained the AC joint. And I mean, it was kind of like what you said. At some point playing, Travis was yelling at you because he just didn't think you were giving it ever, but you were in so much pain, you just couldn't, you don't want to move it. You don't want to do anything. And it was bad. My wife ended up, or my girlfriend at the time, that night she had to help me like get undressed to get in the shower because you can't, when your shoulder's jacked up and you don't want to move it. You'd rather him just cut the shirt off of you so you can stay still. I was like, I bet you Brian don't know that. Not that mine was that serious. It heals and it still pops when I move it around, but that's just, I don't know that's probably scar tissue in there.
Oh,
but
I'm sure.
We're connected that way. What was your short story on your shoulder? What was the deal with it?
Well, I started getting the shoulder issues sophomore year of football. So
okay,
tried to make a couple tackles, arm tackles, and like I remember the first one, Robbie ran through my left arm and felt it kind of come in and out.
Oh, in practice.
In practice, yeah.
So here's my first question: why are you tackling Robbie?
I don't know. Well, it was sophomore year, so he was probably on like
he was playing
JV team.
Oh, he's younger. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a year younger.
Okay, I got you.
So yeah, he might have been on the JV team, and I was the starting safety.
Gotcha. He was running
pretty
scout
much
team.
all 4 years, and
Okay.
so I went to go make a tackle, and he ran through my arm, and so like I felt it, and was down for quite a while, and then basically from then on, like every so often, if I made the wrong type of tackle, like it would come in and out. So I kind of fought that basically for the next 2 years in football, but it carried over into baseball because I did it to my other shoulder as well.
So it was both.
And then that didn't allow me to really throw very well anymore. So like you said, I used to be able to throw hard. I was always a pitcher. I was always the guy who could come in and just try to throw it by people. And I kind of went bye-bye because I was doing pitching and catching going into the sophomore year of baseball season. And if I tried to throw as hard as I could, my shoulder would just slip in and out. So it was just very uncomfortable. So that was basically the end of my shortstop days and pitching days for the most part. They put me out in the outfield so that I wouldn't have to throw as much, and had quite a few stories of me still throwing my arm out. I remember my very last game, senior year, for district finals against Valley. I was trying to show off that I could still throw in warm-ups for whatever reason. And I tried to throw it to second base as hard as I could. Of course, it comes out, and had to put it back in. And then I told Brian Tissue at shortstop, I said, hey, my shoulder, I threw it out. I said, if you have to cut me off, get to like 10 feet away from me because my arm hurts so bad. And, that was the only hit I got in districts. Like, I was a really good hitter senior year. And, like, I only had, like, one hit in 3 games in districts. And, like, the one hit I had was in that game when I felt like my arm was numb. Wow. But, that was kind of my story from baseball. But it continued in basketball. It popped out. My left one was worse. So that was the one that I ended up having surgery on before senior year of basketball. So I wasn't able to play senior year of football. Which was kind of a bummer because we thought we were going to have a really good season for the first time in forever.
Yeah.
But a lot of us ended up getting shelled that season for various reasons.
Yeah.
So it didn't work out as planned, and I wasn't able to come back until right before basketball. But they caused me issues through college too. And total, I've fully dislocated my left one 9 times.
Ooh.
And had 2 surgeries, and it still came out in college after those the second surgery. So it kind of ruined my college career, which is fine. I mean, it's not like I was going to go to the NBA or go play in Europe or anything. It's just you're playing just for the love of the game at that point. And as a D3 athlete. So
I mean, you went on scholarship. Did they pay you to get down
D3
there?
You don't get athletic scholarships. So
really,
no, just went. Now they can maybe push you to get more academic help.
Oh, okay.
And you obviously got to have good grades to go to like those private colleges of Iowa. So I was fortunate enough to get really good grades and get academic scholarships.
Okay.
So
well, good.
So that helped.
Good. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I lost track of you once you got to college, but I remember that whole thing. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about high school. Let's talk about the run. I mean, if there's anything else you want to talk about high school, go ahead. But
I mean, it's mainly sports. Like, I was pretty addicted to sports, and you know, I actually, like, kids say that they don't like school nowadays. I liked school. Like, it was my chance to see friends. And I didn't mind most of the work. Like, obviously, you're not going to have some classes that you don't really like. And, but I always enjoyed school, and maybe that's why I became a teacher. It wasn't my first choice, but
it wasn't. Okay.
No, I mean, I was always kind of an animal guy, and didn't know if I'd go into something biological with animals, but stuff that I probably wanted to do. Probably I didn't know if I'd be able to do that in Iowa very well. Yeah. So, and then I thought maybe physical therapy, since I've been through so much of it, I might be good at that.
They give you half credit just day one.
But then I was like, do I want to do more than 4 years to be a physical therapist? Maybe not right away. So I was like, and then my teachers always used to say, you know, you make a good teacher. You're a good leader in the classroom. People look up to you. So I said, okay.
There you go.
So I started off as an elementary education major at Co. and started off 6 years in the 3rd grade classroom, but then eventually, like, I kind of wanted to just get more in depth in some of the work that the kids were doing. And I've always had a passion for American history, so when a spot opened up in the middle school, I said, you know what, maybe I will. I had to get some more credits and
Sure.
things like that. Take some classes to do that, but
Nice.
I've been there ever since. So
There you go. I like it. Well, let's talk about that high school run. I don't know how you get past not playing football your senior year. That's mentally tough. If you're a football guy like me, that would be
football
tough.
was actually my first passion. Like, we didn't like lose a game in flag football or junior high football. Like, we thought we were going to be so good at football, but like once you get to high school, like, it's more than just your class. You got to have everybody working together from 4 different classes in some cases, and we just didn't have enough guys go out from other classes.
You hear that, James? It does. It does. At our small schools, it takes everybody.
Yeah, like when my freshman year, half of the people starting were freshmen, and it's going to be hard to win that way, especially against bigger schools. So, because we were 1A back then, now we're playing 8-man football.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have played 8-man football back then because we had some skilled players and we had enough linemen to make it work. It would have been a lot of fun to just throw the ball around.
Yeah, I still don't
and
get
have
that.
all that space.
How do you go from we were still A my freshman year, and we were kind of the same deal, undefeated in junior high for 2 years. Like the class above us was undefeated too. We play A our freshman year, and then we go to 1A, and now they're down to 8-man.
Yeah,
Dunkerton hasn't shrunk.
They have. They're down. I think the biggest class K through 12 was 2004 when I graduated. It was like 511, and now we're in the upper 300s.
But explain to me how.
So class sizes have gotten smaller.
Okay, class sizes.
Yeah.
The population of Dunkerton.
No, it's pretty much been the same.
There's still a house or two going up every time I drive through Dunkerton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it's in that little cul-de-sac by the fire department or,
There's a couple behind the library, but most of those are getting maxed out.
Okay, they stopped expanding bar hop, and I didn't understand how we can go up from A to 1A, and now we're down to 8. We're down 2 classes.
Because there was a class around you that was in the 50s.
Sarah's class.
Yeah.
1 year younger than me. They were big.
And mine was 44, and now Dunkerton, a lot of classes are in the 20s and low 30s.
Okay. Which is what I think we were. I think that was kind of, her class was big. I think the average class size was around 30, 32. So, I don't know. That's always baffled me. But anyway, yeah, it always starts that way. You think, oh, we're going to be great. And then it just, man, if kids don't stay out of trouble, or when you get to high school, like if everyone's not, you can't just show up and win on talent. You have to have a lifting program. You have to put in the extra work, or you're not going to be as competitive as you think.
Like, our coaches tried to get people in the weight room, but like only a strong 5, 6, 7 kids would be in there, and that makes a world of difference. Bryce is doing a really good job over at Dunkerton, really building up the strength and conditioning program. So, and I know once
you
get that foundation,
that culture, yep, then everyone's in.
So there's a lot of kids in and out of there all the time. So junior high kids included. So I think hopefully it'll continue and we'll get stronger. Because even in basketball, like we've had really good basketball teams over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But one of the things that always kind of trips us up at the end is we're just not strong enough. You know, we just kind of get pushed around, and those physical teams kind of take us out of what we want to do. And ultimately, we lose in those sub-state games a lot just because of that kind of stuff. So
darn. Well, let's talk about your run then. Let's go back to that. So were you doubting how that was going to go your senior year? You're coming off the shoulder injury. You can't play football. I mean, did you really think, we got a good shot at making it to state and beating everybody?
Oh, I still thought we had a really good shot. I thought we should have gotten there my junior year. I was still we used to take like a trip down to Des Moines if we didn't make it.
Okay.
They'd always take the basketball team. A lot of schools do that.
Sure.
They'll go see the first round games down in Des Moines, and so I refused to go because I could not watch other people down there. Because junior year I thought we should have made it. Like we were ahead at halftime in sub-state game. That was the first time we had been in sub-state even. Yeah. I think since 1933. I know like the 80s had some really good teams, 90s had some really good teams, but they just never got that far. They ran into a really good team at some point. So that was our first shot, and we just had a couple guys get in foul trouble. We had to switch up our defense, and we ended up losing to a really big Bellevue Marquette team, and I played with a couple of those guys on my college team, which was cool. But I was just so angry that we didn't make it. Like we didn't even win the conference that year because my shoulder took me out of a couple games. We lost a couple games we probably would have won.
Yeah.
So that whole year just kind of angered me, but I knew that we were going to be good coming back the next year.
Okay.
But yeah, then the shoulder thing happened. You're like, well, I can't even play
Yeah.
to prepare for the season. Like, I can get some shots up, but of course doctors are going to tell you can't have contact. So like, I couldn't even play. So yeah, I was a little worried about myself, but as a team, I knew we were going to be strong.
Okay. Who was giving? I know it was like the Kinslings.
Yeah, we had the two Kinsling brothers, Zach Rigdon, Zach Reekers, Robbie. Robbie came in and provided a spark off the bench. Matt Hosford.
Okay.
Brandon Arwine was in there a little bit. We weren't real deep, but we had a lot of talent in that first 5, first 6, first 7, and height. So we had 6'7", 6'7", 6'4", 6'6". So when we actually went down to Des Moines that year, I think we were like the biggest team of all classes. And when we played in the summer before I got hurt, so before I got hurt in late June or whatever, we were playing the summer league at NU High, like we normally did every summer, and like we're playing Cedar Falls as we're playing 4A teams, and we're beating the crap out of them.
Cool.
So like the only one that gave us trouble was Waterloo East. I mean, they had Carlton Reed. They had just come off a state championship, so they had a lot of really good players, and we lost to them in overtime. And then, so I knew we were going to have a good team, but then of course my shoulder thing happens. But when we're coming into the year, I've got people in my ear like, we've already got hotel rooms in Des Moines. And so like you hear that and you're like, oh, wow, we better do something this year.
Guess. Better
and
live
then,
up
and
to
then
it.
you see Dennis McGee coming into our locker room and taking pictures for the Courier halfway through the year. And you're just like, well, we better get there because people are making a big deal out of this. Like, you start hearing the outside noise.
Yeah.
For high school kids, that could be pretty daunting when
That's what I was going to
these
ask
adults
you.
are kind of in your ear, like, we know you're going to get there. Well, okay.
The pressure's on.
Yeah, the pressure's on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was pretty rusty to get started because, like I said, I hadn't played against anybody for 4 or 5 months. So my first couple months, or well, month and a half, were pretty rough, I'm sure. I remember some pretty rough games and going through some bad shooting streaks there, but eventually we kind of started rolling there in the second half of the year, and then you started to feel it, like I don't know if anybody can stop us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then we get to sub-state and we come across a team. I think they were like 16-8, Colodesco team that had played in probably a bigger conference at that time. They're a part of our conference now, but so their record didn't look daunting. We watched them on film. You're like, oh, we got these guys. But
Yeah.
it was just neck and neck the whole time. And maybe it was the pressure. Maybe we were just so nervous because we were like, this is our chance. Like, this is our last chance.
Yeah.
The whole town is expecting us to get there. So I think a lot of us were kind of feeling the pressure. You could tell there was nerves. I remember in the locker room before the game, and there wasn't much said. You can tell there's butterflies in the air.
Yeah.
And it was just a neck and neck game. We had one guy from the other team that felt like anything he threw up was going in. He had like 30 of their 44 points. It was a low scoring game. But eventually we pulled it out. It was still like a tie game with like 2 or 3 minutes left, and then we went on a little run to kind of put it away. But I just remember the excitement from fans. Like, my dad's not an emotional guy whatsoever, but he came up and gave me a big hug. Like, he's not a big touchy-feely guy, but like I remember that memory of him coming up and giving me a big hug and saying how proud he was. And then once you get to Des Moines, it's like pressure's off. But like, to me, like, I did not want to go down there and just play one game.
Oh, sure.
And so like that was kind of my thing the whole week, is just like, we're not going down there for one game. Like, this is our first time being down here in 71 years. Like, we have to win this
Make
first
some
game.
noise.
We have to win this first game. At least get 2 down there. Community deserves it. We deserve it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we knew that first round was going to be tough. Played Iowa Mennonite. I had long hair at the time, so I remember them.
I remember that.
The Mennonite from Kelowna singing "Jesus Loves Me" while I'm shooting free throws at the free throw line.
Oh.
But yeah, so I dealt with that because I had the long hair back then. But
I remember that.
I think the sub-state game they were doing the same thing, and people calling me Fabio and all that stuff. So I got to hear all that. Even the radio people, like people would like give you the radio calls on cassette tapes and stuff like that back then. And
Yeah.
like, I don't know, the radio guy was calling me all different kinds of people's names, of people with long hair, I remember. But yeah, I had to deal with that, but that's okay. But yeah, we squeaked by that first round, and that was a neck and neck game too. But and then once we got past that first one, I feel like just
Settled in.
like we all just had tons of confidence, and then we just steamrolled through the semifinals and finals. It wasn't much of a contest for either one. So
Really?
no, we won by 24 in semis and 27 in the state championship. So
Oh, see, I don't remember the scores. I remember it was going around Omega. There was, quite a few Dunkerton people that worked at Omega when I was there at that time. And I don't know if they were texting or what, but like score updates were coming in constantly through those last couple games and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, we got this. Like, holy cow, that's... Yeah.
Shout out to past guest Matt McConaughey Bundy.
There we go.
Our old 5th, 6th grade coach. I was telling Bubba before we started recording that one of the games that he probably remembers this if he's listening to this at some point, that we did the whole long sideburns for him in one game to have a little fun with him. The moms used the eye black to draw some giant sideburns on us so that we could play with some sideburns one of the games. But we weren't great in 5th and 6th grade. We didn't really start being real good at basketball probably till 8th grade. But then I kind of switched from football to basketball, because then you kind of saw there was probably a path, more of a path with basketball. But we've always been kind of a basketball school too. So
Yep, always. It seemed like basketball and track. That's it. Man, no matter how hard we tried to make it a football school, it just never worked out. That's too bad. But that's cool stuff. So we got just a little bit of time left here on your part 1. I'm trying to find the time. Okay. So I had a few questions in here. That's good stuff. That was good memories. So was obviously I'm a guy who just wishes to have gotten a letter from a college for sports. You say they can't give athletic scholarships to colleges were pursuing you.
yes.
What was that like? What was that experience like?
It was unique. Like, I'm not a guy who likes to talk on the phone, and that's the way they did it back then.
Yep.
But they couldn't really start talking to you. I think it's probably similar now to like you're a junior. But I got some letters and things like that. I remember I got my first one from like Wayne State out in Nebraska, I believe. So they were recruiting me pretty hard, and I even got like a letter from Harvard for basketball at some point.
Wow.
So that was just kind of crazy seeing the different ones that come in, but pretty much all the Iowa schools were just kind of pitching their schools to me quite a bit, some more than others, like Wartburg, Luther,
Sure.
Simpson, Central. So there was like 5 probably more stronger than others, but they're constantly calling you on the phone, and that's not my thing. So sometimes I'd tell them I'm busy, I don't want to talk tonight, that kind of thing, because I'm not a conversationalist. Like,
wow.
I've always been kind of an introvert.
Yeah,
so like it's tough,
I remember that.
Tough for me to hold conversations, especially with strangers. So it's like,
Oh yeah.
if like some stranger coach starts talking to you, like you don't know what the heck to say half the time. But Co pursued me really hard. Wartburg, they were kind of my top 2.
Okay.
I was leaning Wartburg, but then Kyle, and then one of our opponents that we played a lot from Tripola, Chris K. We kind of got together at the Kinsling household, and we're just kind of talking about what our future plans were, and finally decided that we'd like to go play with each other if we could.
Okay.
And they liked Co a little bit more than Wartburg, and I was a little bit more Wartburg.
Okay.
But ultimately, like, I liked Co a lot too.
Sure.
And so I just kind of was like, you know what? Well, I'll give Co a try just because I want to play with you guys and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and then I loved my decision. Like, Co was I loved the institution. I loved the coaches. Like, we only had the guy who recruited me, Coach Brazzi, good guy, now at Cornell doing the women, but he was only there for a year, and then Coach Yuckham came in from Wisconsin, and he was a great coach for us. We were always tops in defense in the league when he was there, and we kind of changed from like more of a perimeter-oriented team that freshman year to like a more of a post-oriented team. But
Okay.
I mean, we blossomed with it, and we ran a lot of stuff through our bigs, but it worked for us for sure. I mean, Kyle, my high school teammate, I just inducted him into the Hall of Fame, so shout out to Kyle.
Nice.
For the numbers he put up in college. My career kind of got destroyed by shoulder injuries, like I was talking about before, because I dislocated another 7 times in college. So good freshman year. The rest of that was kind of up and down roller coaster, but I loved my time there, and if it wasn't for my time there, I wouldn't have met some of the greatest friends that I have, and
including
and then that led me to my wife, because she was a UNI girl, but she was childhood friends with my teammate's wife.
Okay.
So we met at their wedding, and yeah, the bride's like, "Hey, there's this guy over there. If I wasn't marrying so and so, I'd marry this guy." And that was kind of her talk to my wife to try to get her to go over and talk to me. And so yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And it all worked out.
Yeah, I would have never met my wife and things like that. But I loved the Cedar Rapids area. I loved Coe College. Like, I would never trade those years for anything. So
yeah, I love Cedar Rapids, man.
Wearing my Coe hat today. I bought it when we were.
I thought that was an Eagles hat.
Oh, no. This is COE.
That looks just like the Philadelphia. They're always tweaking the logo.
Maybe that's why I went there, because that's like the Eagles.
Similar, I guess. Because it's the Coe Hawks, right?
Yep, Coe
All
Hawks,
right.
Yeah. It means like a hawk.
Okay.
If that trips your trigger, that's all it means. Nothing real crazy.
See, I always thought it was Coe Hawks, and then you see Coe
That's
Hawk
what people
written.
always were like, and then we were told no, it just means like a hawk.
But it's
like
K-O.
themed after the Hawkeyes, I believe. But
Oh, okay. Right, but it's spelled K-O-H-A-W-K.
Yeah.
But when you never see it, you think it's Coe, C-O-E, and then Coe Hawk, C-O-E Hawk, and it's like, no, it's okay. So it's a nice way of saying the other Hawks, I guess. I don't know, or the little. I'm not trying to rip your alma mater here, but
no, and Coe did a really good job of preparing me for my career too. So
yeah, you got out of there with the education, right?
Yeah, I actually worked at a school there, so I worked at a school just next door to Coe College, and it's no longer, but it had 95% free and reduced lunch. Real poor community. Some of the kids didn't have like actual homes; they were foster kids.
Yeah.
So like, it was just kind of an eye-opening experience. Like, let
Sure.
you know, because we're from rural Iowa, like pretty homogenous. Like it's not crazy diverse. So it was a good eye-opening experience, and just letting me know kind of what else is out there, and like, it opens your mind to the world
It does.
a little bit more.
Yeah. The big city can do that for all of the things that you can knock a big city for. You get to see the ups and downs of life. It's not all the same when you grow up in small town Dunkerton. You need to get out and definitely see things. Yeah, I'll give a quick shout out before we're out of time. It reminds me, there's this movie coming out called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And it basically deals with that, where these poor kids from the wrong side of the tracks, they walk into a church because they hear there's free snacks if they sign up for the Christmas program. And these kids are, what you'd call they're the worst. They're mean, they're nasty, they want to disrupt everything. They're there for all the wrong reasons. But tell me that's not who Jesus came for. Mm-hmm. And so they made this. It was based off a book, and it's coming out, I believe, early screenings November 2nd, and then it comes out November 8th. The creator of The Chosen, Dallas Jenkins, he's behind it, and he fought to get the rights to do this movie. It's going to be great, but it's specifically those kids that just, they need help, and someone's got to be there to help them. Of course, I'm talking more spiritually, but yeah, there's kids in every, inner city community that needs some help, needs some guidance and stuff like that, and shouldn't look down on them. We should lift them up for sure. So
At first, I thought you were going to tell me it was a Hallmark Christmas movie. Are
No,
you big into the Hallmark?
No, Hallmark kind of went, how we say, woke a little bit, and they started putting some stuff in there that just don't align with like biblical values. So like Candace Cameron and a few others, they branched off and started their own thing to kind of keep it more traditional values, and and stuff like that. But no, this is going to be a movie theater release. So if you like The Chosen or you like Dallas Jenkins, it just looks good. It looks funny, and the message is going to be great. And it's just, I watched a podcast yesterday with Dallas Jenkins, and he talked about after he cried when he read the book to his kids, and he contacted the people who had the rights to it. And it was years they kept selling the rights as they would come up for renewal to a bigger studio. And he was just praying about it. Lord, let me... And it never worked out. And then finally it was like the rights came up, and the owner of the rights' grandma is like 70 years old and says, have you heard about this show, The Chosen, and all this? And it's like they look into this show, The Chosen, and they find out Dallas Jenkins is doing that and hits the guy pursuing them. And they're like, you know what? We're going to give it to him. This other big Hollywood studio ain't doing anything with it. We're going to sell the rights to him, and he did the movie. So check out the trailer. Maybe I'll include the trailer at the end of your episode. If I'm good at this editing computer stuff, maybe I can throw it in there. But yeah, go see that for sure. That'll do it for part 1 with Brian Brungard, good buddy of mine. I hope his story kind of encouraged you in some way, whether it was the tornado stuff at the beginning. We really went into that for a while, or the ups and downs of, going through high school and college, and the shoulder issue, and the pressure being put on young high school athletes when there's expectations put on you, and you got 3 players over 6 foot and a point guard with a handle like nobody's business. How he handled that was pretty impressive. So everyone has a story to tell or an experience to share. And that's what we do here. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to let people share what life has been like for them, and hopefully it encourages people. But this isn't the end of Brian's episode. There will be a part 2 next week. Spoiler alert, we're just going to record it right now. But you'll see it next week. We'll get into his segments. We'll have some laughs. We'll put his knowledge to the test. He's a history teacher, so we're going to do some American history trivia. Hopefully we don't embarrass him too bad, but we may also get into some more serious topics like parenting, the health of our kids, things like that. You never know where the conversation's going to go, but you don't want to miss it. So be sure to come back next week. Thank you guys for listening. Again, be sure to like, follow, subscribe wherever you're listening or watching in flawless high definition right there. Could be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating, or I think YouTube is like a little thumbs up thing. You got to hit that button. Click the bell for notifications. If you guys can't keep up with me because I'm churning out such excellent content so fast, click a bell. There's a little bell wherever you're watching or listening. It'll send you a little notification when a new episode comes out. It's usually Friday mornings, 5 a.m. That way I can listen to them before most anybody else. And if it sucks, I pull it off. But it's only happened once. So follow our Instagram and our Facebook for more reels, pictures, some encouraging stuff on there, some giveaways. Share with all your friends on social media. If you want a shirt or a hat, you want to rep the podcast, email me. whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. You can also send me your questions, comments. Maybe you got a segment idea or a guest idea. If you need help with anything or you want to talk deeper about something you heard here today, reach out. I'm available. I'll respond. You got a question for Brian? I'll get you in touch with Brian if he says that's okay and if he has the time, but he's more than willing to help. So thank you guys for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. I appreciate all the support. Lord willing, I'll talk to you on the next one.
Okay, everyone. For as long as I can remember, our little town has loved Christmas. And nothing is more important than our annual Christmas pageant.
The pageant is sacred.
Special mention to Grace for volunteering to direct the pageant.
But this year, the Herdmans changed everything.
Now. The Herdmans are absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. Hey!
Give it up, Charlie!
You ready for this? I'm gonna be in your Bible play. This is gonna be a real disaster.
That's the spirit. Would anyone like to volunteer for Mary and Joseph?
Who's Mary? Baby Jesus' mom?
Elmer, you usually like playing Joseph. Suppose that's that then.
The Herdmans shouldn't be here.
They're a poor influence.
It might be the first Christmas pageant in history where Joseph and the wise men get in a fight, and Mary hightails it with the baby.
$5 say they burned down the manger.
This year, we get to be someone else, live a different life, become someone new.
Why are they still here?
Jesus was born for the herdmans as much as he was for us. We'll be missing the whole point now if we turn them away.
I'm not quite sure what's gonna happen. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Because Mary and Joseph weren't so sure either.
She's crying. Mary's crying.
It's going to be the best Christmas pageant ever. Today we're going to ignore everything except blood.
Oh, what? Come on!
Now that's a pageant I'd actually like to see.